Hello my friends, and welcome back to Slay the Spire 2. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're playing the Necrobinder, which is a character I've had a lot of people tell me they're really struggling with. So today we're going to go through a run, and I will talk about how to think about this character so that you can consistently win, even on high Ascensions. In particular, I think the Necrobinder has a very weak Act 2, and so we're going to talk a lot about how to set up your deck to make it through that difficult point. Also, just realized I hadn't set up my sound correctly. Apologies if the sound was weird for the first 30 seconds. Alright, so looking at these Neow buffs, we have Neow's Fury. I think that this is still on the weaker end of possible options. Neow's Fury is a decent attack. It can get 2 cards back, so it can replay some fairly powerful cards, but the Necrobinder, until later at least, doesn't have a lot of cards it wants to replay. It can be very good if you find, say, an Oblivion or a Seance or something like that, but outside of those really strong zero-cost cards, Neow's Fury, I think, is less powerful. More of a type, like a defect type of card, in my opinion. Arcane Scroll. I actually think this is quite good for the Necrobinder. This character's rare cards, I think, are on average better than the rare cards for other characters to get on the first floor, because there's a lot more just generically powerful rare cards for the Necrobinder, so Arcane Scroll is very strong. Precarious Shears is probably the most powerful Neow buff. That's why it comes with a huge 16 HP cost. So if you can support it, it's very good. Let's look at our map and see if we have an easy enough map that we can use Precarious Shears here. So what I'm looking for is one that lets me take a couple campsites early and doesn't force me to take fights from the more difficult pool of hallway enemies. So doesn't require us to take like 4 hallway fights. So it looks like we might actually be able to. So let's say I was to go like this. And then I can go to a campsite, and then another event, and then a campsite, and then we can go to the left here, and now I've managed to rest and gain back the health that we lost from the shears, and then we can go like so, still get 2 elites, get a shop. This looks like a very clean Precarious Shears path, actually. So it means skipping this first elite in favor of a campsite, but so we get basically 1 fewer relic in exchange for 1 more card removal. That's a trade I'm almost always happy to take. So we're going to take Precarious Shears here, and we'll remove 2 strikes. On some characters, you want to remove 1 strike and 1 defend. On the Necrobinder, removing 2 strikes, I think, is better, because this character can always win the early fights just by building up a big bodyguard unleash combo. I'm going to take this path. These 2 meet in the same place and are both 2 fights and 3 events, but I'm going to take this one because I want to put the fights a little earlier, just so we have more information about our deck. How did I take damage? I removed 2 strikes, and the bottom 4 cards of the deck were defends. Unbelievable. Oh well. I don't know what the exact odds of that are, but they are not high. So we're starting from a severe health deficit now because I took the maximum possible damage in this encounter. The Necrobinder rarely takes damage from these early game fights as well, although the Sea Punk is, I think, the hardest early game fight. So that's really funny that happened. Alright, so looking at these options, I think there's a pretty clear winner. I like Drain Power a lot. Upgrading your cards is just really strong in longer encounters. It can upgrade my defense, which is very good for this character. Upgrading Bodyguard and Unleash is great. And it's 1 energy for 10 damage, which is just a very solid ratio in the early game. I can't afford to lose 14 more HP after what just happened in that last fight. And Gorge is great to get in the early game. It's one of my favorite events because you're very likely to get 2 very solid cards. Here we actually did not get amazing cards, to be honest. A second Drain Power, the good thing is that they can upgrade each other, and then they upgrade 3 cards, but you don't really need a second Drain Power. Pull Aggro, I'm not a big fan of this card. Very expensive for what it does. Similarly, Afterlife. Wisp, I think, is on the whole relatively weak. So I'm looking at kind of the bottom 3 cards. I think I'm definitely going to be taking the Blight Strike. Blight Strike is 1 energy for effectively 16 damage. It has synergy with Doom, which of course is one of the strategies you're almost always interested in. And then the question is, do I want to take Poke, Reap, or Fear with my last card? Poke can be okay if you're building up to a lot of Osti attacks. This deck doesn't have a particular reason to be doing that, but it's not terrible either. Fear is good to upgrade with Drain Power, because it applies to Vulnerable, which of course is very strong. It works well with Blight Strike as well. So I think I'm going to take the Fear over the Reap or the Poke. Reap is quite good just because it has Retain, and so it can be really strong in some early game encounters. But just having these cards that have synergy, I think, is pretty nice as well. And then we'll play some defensive cards. Also, that can set me up for my for an ethereal deck, if that's something that I end up wanting to do. I'll play a defend here, and then I'll play Drain Power, I think. And Blight Strike is still sort of more damage than Unleash, because it applies 6 Doom. So it'll kill the enemy slightly faster here. And then we can play some defensive cards. 10 damage incoming here, but I do have an upgraded defend. I also have Drain Power, Blight Strike, Unleash in order to win the fight this turn. So no damage taken in that fight, which is good. I do already have 1 ethereal attack in the form of Fear, so I could take a Lethality. I could also take So. So has Retain, and AoE damage is something that the Necrobinder can really struggle with. So we're just going to take the So here. Having Retain means it won't ruin my hand against enemies where we don't want it, but it will just be very strong in a lot of the encounters where we do want it. And it solves a problem that the deck has. You should very often be thinking about, how do I solve a problem that the deck currently has, and trying to focus on doing that as early as possible, rather than plan for the long game in this game, because if you don't get past the next encounter, then you won't make it to the long game. And often you'll find that just by solving problems that the deck has right now, you will hone it into an invincible machine even for the longer game. So I could take Greed. It means that we're committing to having 1 dead card in the deck. It does mean that I can remove the 2 strikes very easily, and then probably still also buy some other stuff. But I'm only going to 1 shop. Let's just take the money here. This deck can end up very thin, so I don't really want to junk it up with more cards, because we've already removed 2. Then let's go to another event here. And Spiral's very good. Enchanting a defend with Spiral is, of course, a lot of extra block. But if I take the heal here, we can just go take an elite fight. We've made up the health loss that we had from the precarious shears. So now we're well set up to just get the relic and get everything that we were looking for. Really glad that we took So here, of course, because we're going into the Phantasmal Gardener fight where So is at its best. I will play I'm going to play Drain Power this turn, so what do I want to upgrade? I guess I want to upgrade Fear. So let's hit this enemy. Actually, let's hit this enemy, because I'm going to Drain Power the low health one. Do I want to use my Vulnerable Potion? I don't think it really saves me health. We're definitely going to take a bunch of damage in this fight, but that's we can go to this campsite. And then here I can play... I'm 1 short of Blight Strike killing it, so I could also just use the Vulnerable Potion to at least get 1 more enemy kill. But we have So next turn, and that'll kill it. So let's play Blight Strike, putting it to 1. And then we can just play some defensive cards. And then we'll take some more chip damage this turn. And then here, I'm going to play So, which will render that enemy dead, and then we'll play our defenses. Now, I was hoping that I would be able to block all of the... I was hoping that I would have more block this turn, so we didn't take this much damage. Do I need to play Blight Strike to just kill this enemy this turn? I might. Because that prevents 10 damage, so I think that is worth it. Because I could Blight Strike something else, but it doesn't even get it killed. And preventing 10 damage immediately is such a huge bonus here. And then here, let's go with Drain Power, upgrading a couple cards, and we'll play some more defensive cards. Take 7, and then I didn't draw into Sow, which I was really hoping for. But I can play Defend, that blocks some damage, Defend, that blocks almost all the incoming damage, and then I'll play Fear, killing that enemy. And then here I have 10 incoming damage again, but I can play... it's really unfortunate that the Sow has been at the bottom of the deck. Can I just kill one of these enemies? We currently have 19, 27 damage, and they gain 7 block. So not enough to kill one of them in one go. So let's just play Drain Power on this one, and then play 2 Defends. And then here, I can play Sow, or I can play Fear on one of them as well. But I think Sow, Bodyguard, Unleash kills either of them. Because they'll get some block, but the Unleash will now do 15. So I can kill the low health one. I do lose out on my Fear, but that's okay. At this point, it's no longer super relevant. And then we can just... win the fight this turn. Alright, so a lot of damage taken. Probably some ways I could have saved some health in that fight, but overall, we were going to have to rest anyways, so I'm not devastated. Rattle. Do I want a Rattle? In this case, we still currently only have the one Osty attack, and I have a lot of these just small attacks already, so here I'm just going to skip. And then we'll go to an event. I really dislike adding a random junk card to the deck. Now, we will be able to remove it. We have already removed 2 cards, and we have a bunch of gold. And losing 8 HP is pretty painful at this point. So I think I have to take this. And so we got Clash. Can only be played if every card in your hand is an attack. So this is basically a completely useless card for us most of the time. Then we're going to rest, and then we'll go take our chest here. Venerable Tea Set. I'd have loved to get that before the campsite, but it'll be nice going into the last elite fight, which I'm still gearing up to take. And then we'll go into this elite fight here. Alright, so this turn, I'm going to play Defend, and I am going to use the Vulnerable Potion, because I'm just going to play all my attacks this turn, so it's a pretty good use for the Vulnerable Potion. Brutal to take 12, we're again just not drawing our blocking cards at the right time. It looks like I am going to be able to play Clash, though, which is pretty nice. Do I want to try to upgrade Clash? I could also upgrade the cards that are still in the discard. I think Clash is actually an okay upgrade here. And then we take a little bit more damage. And then here, we stun the enemy when we get it below 75 health. So I can just play Fear and Unleash and Strike, stunning the Terror Eel. Then we can get our reshuffle, and we can go Bodyguard, Strike, and Drain Power, putting it down to 26. Retaining Sow. And then here, if I play Defend... So actually, I take it back. The Clash was great in this fight. I really thought this would be very bad. But it was actually awesome. Powdered Demise is a really nice potion to get as well, going into our next elite fight or the boss fight. Either way, we're happy with it. If I had taken some of the Asti attacks that we could have taken, this actually could have been a Calcify deck. It's very rare to get a Calcify deck, so usually you won't end up picking this card, but we were in a spot where we could maybe have tried to do it. But I'm just going to take Defy. Defy is very strong. It's a good defensive card. 1 weakness and 6 block is just very powerful overall. And then here, I do still need to go rest. I took enough damage that I have to rest at the campsite. And then we'll go to another event. Are there cards I want to have retain? So Clash with retain is not terrible. I could play it pretty regularly, probably. So 50 gold for that. It's kind of like adding an extra card draw to my deck every time we cycle through it. On the other hand, 6 max HP is actually pretty good, and the Necrobinder's really low max health is pretty rough. I think also, if I take the 6 max HP here, there's a decent chance that we get out of this elite fight with enough health that I can upgrade at the campsite. This is not really the shop that I was hoping for, I have to say. The Lee's Waffle, I suppose, is an option. We could heal back up to full. And gain a bunch of health, and then we would definitely be able to upgrade at the campsite. I think what I'm going to do here is we'll start with the card removal, and I'm actually going to remove a strike over the Clash. And then I think I will buy a negative pulse. I'm always fairly happy to have this in the deck. And do I want to buy Warpaint or Lee's Waffle? Warpaint can upgrade Defy, which is pretty good. It can upgrade Bodyguard. It can upgrade Negative Pulse. Upgrading Defends is totally fine here. On the other hand, just healing back to full is worth a lot for us. So I think I am just going to take this. I don't usually like to buy just pure heals, but we had the money for it, and this will guarantee that I get an upgrade. So it's kind of like buying half of the Warpaint regardless. Against this enemy, I am just going to use my Powdered Demise potion, I think. The Waterfall Giant, we will hopefully have enough damage to take out, and Powdered Demise is very good against the Skulking Colony, because it does consistent damage every turn, which is exactly what you need. Yeah, I'm happy upgrading any of those. I guess I could have guaranteed upgrading Defy, though, if I'd done the Drain Power in a better order. And I'm going to retain so because the enemy's going to take the maximum 15 damage regardless this turn. And then here, let's go with Negative Pulse, Defend, and I'm going to let the Fear etherealize. We just don't need it because we have the Demise this turn. Then we'll take a little bit of damage. I can't play Clash this turn, but that's okay. Let's start with Defy. And I have Drain Power. What do I want to upgrade? I think Bodyguard and Defy are the upgrades this turn. And then here I can go... I don't have Defy, but I can play my Defend, Negative Pulse, and another Defend. And we don't take damage. Asti loses some health, of course. 16 incoming damage, so I can play Defend, Defend, and another Defend, and then play Clash, and then the enemy dies to the Doom. So pretty clean Skulking Colony fight. Obviously cost me a potion, which is a real cost, especially because that would have been good against the Waterfall Giant as well. Necromastery. I am not usually a huge fan of this power, but this is kind of a weird deck with a lot of random, like, one-off, low-cost damage cards. Usually this is a lot more early-game tempo cards than I would take. I think we can get away with the Necromastery, and this will be one of the ways in which we can actually damage enemies. So we're going to try for that, and then I will upgrade. If I upgrade Necromastery, it's just summon 8. I will upgrade... I could just upgrade Drain Power in order to have it be upgrading 3 cards. Upgrade Clash is 18 damage. Upgrade Defy is 3 more block. Upgrade Negative Pulse, 1 more block and a little more Doom. Let's just upgrade Bodyguard. That's always a reasonable upgrade on the Necrobinder. And then we'll go to the Waterfall Giant fight. This is a slightly weird deck, I do have to say. I'll play Fear, Strike, and Negative Pulse. Sadly, we're basically wasting all of our energy on the first turn, but we do have Sturdy Clamp, which will let me maintain block from turn to turn, which is very nice. So we want to play, of course, as much block as possible. Instantly, obviously, we get a hand where it's not possible to play a bunch of block. But at least we get to get the Ascender's Bane out and retain so. Here, I can play Necromastery and get that set up. And then I can play Defend. I can also just play Drain Power and start upgrading. Let's just play a Defend here. Save some health on Asti. I need to play Defy. I definitely want to keep this in the deck. And because we have Sturdy Clamp, we get to keep block from turn to turn regardless. But I will play a Blight Strike because we also need to actually kill the enemy at some point. Here, I can play... I'm definitely playing Negative Pulse. Do I want to just play 2 Defends and try to save some health on Asti, or do I want to keep my Fear? I think it's okay to just let the Fear etherealize here. Alright, this turn, we actually do get to play Clash, because I can play Defy, and I can play Clash. Oh, I should have thought about that more, because I have Drain Power in hand, and I would really have liked to upgrade Blight Strike over Clash, but let's play Blight Strike and Drain Power. Unleash is a lot of damage here, but I want to try to upgrade my most relevant cards. Upgrade Defy and Clash was what I was hoping for, or rather, what I should have arranged to guarantee. This turn we'll stack more Doom. And then we've got Bodyguard, Negative Pulse, and a fairly substantial Unleash this turn. I'm going to start taking a little damage on Asti to speed up the kill, because the Steam Eruption is starting to get pretty spooky as well. This turn, if I want to play Clash, I have to play triple Defend, or I can just go So and Drain Power. I'd rather upgrade the So than Defend or Strike. So I'm going to play that first, but I will play 1 Defend as well to minimize the chance of upgrading Strike, which I don't care about. And then here, I'll play a Defy, and we'll play Blight Strike, because again, I need to actually kill the enemy at some point. And then I could play a Defend, but I'm going to play an Unleash in order to speed up the fight a little further. Asti still has a bunch of health, so we're still okay. I can't play Clash this turn, but I can at least block a bunch. And then here, I can Drain Power something. I definitely want to Drain Power the Defend, but I think I'm just going to play Bodyguard. No, I'll play Unleash here, and I'll play Drain Power, and then upgrade Unleash. Asti loses his health. That's alright, we'll get it back. I'll play Defy, and then we'll play some Defends, and then we can play Clash. And then the enemy dies. And then this turn, I just need to stack up a little bit of block. I have a decent chance of drawing into Defy here as well. But basically, we can get 10 block from turn to turn. I didn't get to play Bodyguard last turn, but we can now play Defy, which prevents a lot of the Waterfall Giant explosion damage. And then I can play Bodyguard. Tragically, both my other Defends are at the bottom of the deck, so we're taking some damage here, but we made it out of the fight with minimal damage taken. And I'm feeling like we're in okay shape going into Act 2. We really need some scaling added to this deck, things that make our deck better in longer fights. And here's a couple of them. Sentry mode is 10 damage every turn, of course. It's an ethereal card, so it works with any ethereal synergies we might have. Reaper form is also quite powerful. It will work to apply a bunch of doom and basically doubles the damage of all of your cards after you play it. Now, without any energy generation, which we don't currently have any in this deck, or real like card draw or anything, I think Reaper form is a little ambitious. So I'm going to take Sentry mode in order to scale through longer fights in the mid game, and then we're going to look for end game scaling during Act 2. Going into Act 2, this deck is, let's review the deck, because I mentioned I was going to talk about how to sort of think about Act 2 with this character. I would say this is a very scrappy deck currently. We've kind of put together an okay deck out of a bunch of not very powerful cards. Also, I don't know if you can hear my cat howling in the background, but he's decided that he is very upset about something. But this deck, I think, we've been offered not great card rewards through Act 1 and have nonetheless managed to put together an okay deck. So I think we've navigated a somewhat tricky spot relatively well. The problem is that without energy generation, card draw, or sort of late game scaling, we're definitely missing some pieces to make this deck functional on into later acts. Let's see what we get from the Ancient, and we'll be looking for some of those. Alright, so here, I really, obviously we don't want Nutritious Soup. It would just make our one remaining strike unremovable, which is pretty bad. I could take Big Hug and remove 4 more cards, but we actually don't really have 4 more cards we directly want to remove from this deck. And the Soots are very bad, of course, for the Necrobinder, which tends to shuffle through its deck a lot, although we haven't gotten a lot of soul generation. So I think it's pretty clear we're just taking Golden Compass, and that at least saves me time having to think about what map path we're going to take, because it's always going to be the same one. Alright, so here, let me just set up Necro Mastery and the block, and then I'll play a Defend, and then we just do 13 damage to the Thieving Hopper this turn. And take a little bit ourselves. We've got Strike and Defend that I can upgrade, or Strike, Defend, and Blight Strike that I can upgrade with Drain Power here. And there's just no way I can get Clash playable. So let's play Drain Power. I'm going to play Negative Pulse first. And I'll play Drain Power, because I wouldn't mind upgrading the Negative Pulse. And then I guess we'll just play Unleash. So is fine to just have retained here. 23 incoming damage this turn. So, also, what did it steal? It stole Fear. I actually don't care that much if it runs off with the Fear. So, 17, let's play a Bodyguard and a Negative Pulse. And then 16 damage incoming this turn, but I can at least play a fairly substantial Unleash. We haven't done enough damage to get close to stunning the enemy. I do have Blight Strike and Clash, so if I hit it 3 times this turn, I can potentially stun it next turn before it runs away. If I can get enough stuff, if I can play enough cards to remove, or to be able to play Clash. I can't, but I can still play Sow and Blight Strike, which is 2 attacks. So we can do these 2. And that stuns it, and then we get to win the encounter. I took some damage, but worth it to get the card reward, I think. And the Thieving Hopper, you're always going to take damage against that enemy. Always look at the card reward before you click the Take Your Stolen Card Back button, because you might not want the card back. And here, I think I actually am just going to let the Fear disappear. I'm going to take Severance. This is a pretty strong card that can set us up for a much better long game. It's good damage. It gives us a lot of extra souls, of course, and lets us draw into better cards. And I think we are not going to take the Fear back. It's not upgraded, and it's not high on our priority of cards to upgrade either. We need to upgrade like Sentry Mode, Necromastery, all of those first. So letting the Fear go, I think, is pretty good here. I could add a Clumsy to the deck. It is ethereal, and we do only have... we have one shop. We only have one strike left to remove, so... and that's only going to cost 150. So I can commit to spending another 200 gold on removing the Clumsy, or just accept that we can have Clumsy in the deck, or I can just lose 6 HP for the gold. Let's just lose the health and keep the money. Alright, so this turn I will defy this enemy, and that blocks 4 incoming damage, and then I can play... the So, of course, is going to be good, but let's get Sentry Mode and Bodyguard done first, because I want to get the Sentry Mode out there, obviously. And then here we can play Sweeping Gaze. If I play Necromastery, then Asti will deal a bunch of return damage to these enemies. So I'm going to do that. I'll still play some block. But we've done enough damage that we can kill the enemies this turn. We took a substantial amount of damage in this fight, but have managed to escape it without any more taken. And that's also a pretty difficult fight for us, given the spot that our deck is in. Grave Warden, you should pretty much click this card every time you see it, at least the first, 2 times you see it per Necrobinder run. It's incredibly efficient block and puts a soul in the deck, one of the best things to do. Negative Pulse I don't mind either. Afterlife I'm generally not a huge fan of, although it does work okay with Necromastery, so that's a slightly interesting combination. Here I'm going to upgrade my Sentry Mode, because removing the 2 cost from this will make it significantly easier to actually get that into play. And then we're going to face the Avocopter. Definitely one of the more difficult hard mode elite fights for us, and we're very likely to take some damage here. Because I don't have... well, we did draw So this turn, which is not terrible. Let's play our Sweeping Gaze and see what we hit. And then So will kill one of the eggs, which is nice. And then here, I can play Severance and kill something. I could also play a Defend to avoid taking damage this turn. Let's play the Defend, and then I'll play a Drain Power, killing one more egg. $13 incoming damage this turn. Let's start with Sweeping Gaze. And then I can play the Necromastery. Which is probably correct as well, because that's, again, more damage and prevents me from taking any damage this turn. Here, we can go with Sweeping Gaze first. No, I'm going to play So first if I'm playing So I should think about that at least. I'm definitely going to play the Defy. I want to keep that in my deck, and I want to build up block from turn to turn, because we have the Sturdy Clamp. So let's play Defy. Let's play Sweeping Gaze. I was hoping to hit that, because then I can play Grave Warden and Blight Strike and keep So for next turn, when we can use it to kill some eggs. And then here I can go Sweeping Gaze and So, which kills one egg. 25 incoming damage, so unfortunately I don't have enough block, but I can at least play some block. And then I could kill one of the eggs here and prevent some damage. I could also just clash the Avocopter, because I do need to start hurting that as well. Let's just start dealing damage to the Avocopter, because we're getting close to killing it. And then here I can go Sweeping Gaze first. Bodyguard. Unleash on the Avocopter is getting close to lethal. I'm going to play a Defend. And now we've got 18 incoming damage. Asti will deal 8 back. So I can play a Negative Pulse for some block. I could also take a little bit of extra damage to get an Unleash out. This is, of course, why we want to avoid the hard mode hallway fights, because they just do ridiculous amounts of damage to you. I think I'm going to play an Unleash, because I really want to get this enemy close to dead. I also didn't need to use the soul there. And then here I can play a So, and I can play a Sweeping Gaze. And then it doesn't really matter what else I do, it'll die to the Doom. But we took a substantial amount of damage in that fight. Alright, Bone Shards I like a reasonable amount. You obviously can't always play this, but it's 9 block and 9 AoE damage, and there's a lot of turns where Asti just has 1 health, so Bone Shards is quite good. Dredge upgraded is really nice. It has Retain, which of course is going to let me play, replay some powerful cards. I'm not sure what I would really want to replay in this deck though, so I think we're just going to take Bone Shards. It's just an extremely strong card overall. The ones that kill Asti are always a little rough to use, but the numbers on this card are just so incredible. Looking at our upgrade options, we could upgrade Necromastery for 3 more block. Severance is a lot more damage when upgraded, 5 more damage. Now, it doesn't get upgraded souls. Upgraded Bone Shards is 12 block and 12 AoE damage for 1 energy, so usually that's what I'm going to take here. And then we will go to the event. When's my shop? I could discard these 2 potions and replace them with 200 gold. For the foul potion. Would I sell a strength and a dexterity potion for 200 gold? I think I would. So I'm just going to discard here. We'll take the 2 foul potions, and then we should be able to buy some good stuff. And then we'll go to get a relic. All right, Toxic Egg, very nice. Of course, a very, very powerful card. Or relic, rather. Here, I could trade Lantern for Bone Flute, trade Toxic Egg for Regal Pillow, trade Centennial Puzzle for Book of the 5 Rings. Wow, these are bad trade options. Lantern, I think, is an extremely powerful relic. It's a little redundant with Venerable Tea-Set. We don't really need both, but it is still very good. Toxic Egg, there's a lot of cards I want to add to my deck, and so Toxic Egg is still pretty powerful. Regal Pillow isn't the worst. It can keep our health high. Centennial Puzzle is typically a very powerful relic. Card draw is something that we're kind of struggling with. This is a really rough one. Asti attacks, I have Bone Shards. Sentry Mode, of course, works with Bone Flute, so that's 2 block every turn. Necromastery is not one. Unleash, of course, is one. I think I'm going to trade my Lantern off. This hurts, but we do have Venerable Tea-Set, which does some of the same stuff. That's another interesting spot where I would love to hear your thoughts. Molten Egg, it's not the best here, but there are some attacks that we will keep adding to the deck. So I expect maybe we'll get 1 upgrade here. I could give away the Bone Flute for 2 random relics, or I could give away 100 gold for a random relic. Let's just buy a random relic for 100 gold. We'll take our Chandelier, that's fine. And then we'll go to the shop. Let me throw my Foul Potion so we can visibly see how much money we're working with. Just drinking some water while I'm thinking about the shop here. I've got to oil the bearings on my chair. I don't know how much the squeaking is coming through. All right. Rolling Boulder. This is actually a pretty strong option for this character. We're currently struggling for damage scaling, and Rolling Boulder is a way to get that going. So I might consider taking that. Ultimate Defend, an upgraded one, I don't dislike that either. We do need more block. Sculpting Strike, adding Ethereal to some of my cards is not horrible. Fetch is free damage every cycle. It works with Bone Flute to give us extra block. I do need more energy generation, and an upgraded Wisp on sale with Retain isn't bad. Afterlife works well with our Necromastery. Tuning Fork. This is, of course, a very powerful tool to just make sure that we have some additional block all the time. Pendulum. We really need more card draw as well, so I'm tempted by both of those relics. I think I'm always going to remove a strike here. And I think removing strike over clash. We're not going to play either most of the time we draw them, but when we do play one of them, clash is going to be the more impactful, of course. And we'll play it somewhat for free. Do I want to buy a rolling boulder? The other option is to buy something like Cauldron, Tuning Fork, Wisp. I mean, we have a lot of options, but I think this deck is in need enough of damage scaling that rolling boulder is actually pretty good for us. And then I could take Fetch to go with my Bone Flute. I could take Wisp to make playing rolling boulder a little easier, since currently we have no energy generation at all, so getting this into play is going to be a little awkward. Wisp is a fairly low impact card, so it's not one I usually like to add. I think I'm going to take a Fetch. It just, it is card neutral. You redraw the card when you play it, and it's +2 block, so it's just a little bit of extra damage every card cycle. Alright, well this is a rough elite for us to face, but let's set up Necromastery, we'll play our Bodyguard, and then do I want to play Severance, or do I want to play Negative Pulse Defend? I guess we'll just play some more block here. I'm going to take 1 damage, the enemy will take a bunch. And then, against this enemy, unfortunately, cards like Fetch are pretty bad, but let me go... So I can play Fetch into Bone Shards. You have to be careful with Bone Shards, because it's very easy to forget that when you kill Asti, he can't attack. So you can often put yourself in a bad situation doing that. I'll play the Bone Shards here, which kills Asti, so I gain effectively 11 block. And then I'll play a Grave Warden, and we'll set up Sentry Mode. I'm not setting up Rolling Boulder this turn, but other than that, that was a pretty good turn. And then here, I'm going to play... I can play a Soul first, and I guess I will. Drawing into Defy is a little rough. Maybe I wasn't supposed to play the Soul that turn because of the potential to draw into Defy. And I do think it is worth it, at least before it gets the second stack of Personal Hive. It was worth it to play the Sweeping Gazes, even at the cost of putting a Daze in the deck. It might not be as much now, when it's 2 Dazes. But I do need to start working on actually killing the enemy as well. The Clash will never be playable for this character. Yeah, I think putting 2 more Dazes in the deck is worth it for 10 damage, and I get to keep 2 block next turn. I think we're never playing Rolling Boulder this turn. Am I playing Bone Shards? I suppose I am. So I'm going to play that, and I'll play Bone Shards. I'm never playing Rolling Boulder in this fight, is what I meant to say there. And then I'm going to play a Defend rather than add a... Oh, wait, I have 1 more energy. All right, I'll add 2 more Dazes to the deck to get Blight Strike going as well. And then here, let's start with Sweeping Gaze. It's 2 more Dazes in the deck. I'll play Grave Warden. I'll play Drain Power before Negative Pulse. No, not the Clash. Upgrading Clash there hurts a lot. And then we're very likely to draw a bunch of Dazes here. So I kind of just need to play any cards that I get. The enemy's doing, a lot of damage this turn. But I can play Severance. And I'll start with Fetch here. And then I'll play Sweeping Gaze. And then I'm going to play a Soul. I'm looking for Defy there, but we'll just play a Defend. And then this was a really rough Elite to face in this spot, given that we're using Sweeping Gaze as most of our damage, but we made it through. Shuriken we might actually end up triggering because of Sentry Mode. Alright, an upgraded Negative Pulse would be fine. Upgraded Delay, I don't dislike Delay as much in this deck. When it's upgraded, it's a lot better, because it's much easier to play it when it's 13 block. You're much less likely to just take a ton of damage playing it. We need energy generation, and we have Sturdy Clamp. So there's a lot of times where we can play Delay on a turn where the enemy isn't doing anything, and basically get both halves of the delay on the future turn. And then I think I do need to take a safety rest here. We'll go into this elite fight. We're really kind of just hanging on to this run by the skin of our teeth, I have to say. We've gotten offered some pretty bad cards overall. I will play Blight Strike. I'm going to play Rolling Boulder and Necromastery here, but I'll start with Blight Strike because we get the energy back from the Infested Prism. And then I want to set up my powers. This turn, let's start with Fetch, and then we gain an energy. And then I'm going to play a Defy, weakening the enemy. I'm going to play Bone Shards, I think, first. And then I could play Bodyguard, or I could play Delay. We already are getting enough block next turn, so I'm just going to play Bodyguard, because Delay will give me energy next turn, but not block, because we already are going to have enough block from the Sturdy Clamp. So I'm just going to play Bodyguard so we can keep some health on Asti. We'll still have 10 block from Sturdy Clamp, so we're fine there. Oh, right, I got energy from Chandelier as well, so I really didn't need to play Delay last turn. This turn, I'm just going to play everything. I could retain the So just to avoid redrawing it, but just playing all my cards is typically the way to go. I'm going to start with a Soul here, and then do I want to play Bone Shards? It's a decent amount of block for next turn. We'll play Sweeping Gaze, and then we gain an energy, and we have 2 blocks. So yeah, I don't need to play Bone Shards. I can just play Grave Warden and Blight Strike. Bone Shards is 12 damage, costs me Asti's health, and we don't keep any extra block next turn, because we already have 10. Alright, what I really wanted to draw this turn was Defy. Now, I can play Severance and try to draw into the Defy, and I think that's fine. It only costs 1 energy net. We're always playing that, and then we'll play this, and we drew the Defy. That's great. And then I can play probably just Bodyguard for the most possible block this turn. And then this turn, I can... This is a good turn to play Delay on, but let's start with Fetch and see what we draw here. And then I'll play a Sweeping Gaze just to make the decisions easier. And then I'm going to play the Soul first, triggering a reshuffle, because that gives me more control over what I upgrade with Drain Power if I end up playing Drain Power this turn. But I think I'm just going to play Delay, Negative Pulse, and Bodyguard. Keep a bunch of health on Asti. And then we've got 45 damage incoming, and I should be able to get the enemy to the point where it dies to the Doom. I just need to do 1 more damage this turn. So we'll play Grave Warden, we'll play Defend, we'll play Clash, and that's plenty. And then, alright, really clean Infested Prism fight overall. We took some damage at the beginning, but we're pretty happy with where we're at. The Strawberry is nice because it means I can probably upgrade instead of having to rest at this next campsite. Do I want a second Necromastery? I actually genuinely... I've never had 2 of these in the deck. I don't know how this works. Does it mean that enemies lose twice as much health as Asti loses? I'm kind of tempted to buy it just for science, but I think I should just take an upgraded Defy. This is upgraded Fear and upgraded Defy are both really nice cards for us, but upgraded Defy is exactly what we want in this deck. We need more ways to apply weakness, so I'm just going to take that. And then here, and let me know in the comments how that interaction works if you happen to know. And then here, I'm going to do an upgrade, and we'll upgrade Rolling Boulder. Starting it at 5 more damage is so powerful for Rolling Boulder. It means that you win these fights way faster. And then we're going into the Insatiable fight. Alright, so this is a spot where Delay is quite good because it gives me energy next turn when we need it more. And hopefully we can use that energy to play our Rolling Boulder if we can get that. We didn't. But I will play Bone Shards. And we'll play 2 Defies. And we'll play Bodyguard and Defend. And then here, let's start with a Fetch. I have 6 energy this turn. I'm going to play Severance. And I'm going to play a Soul. Rolling Boulder being at the very bottom of the deck after we had all these turns where we set up bonus energy to make it easy to play it. Really not great for us, I have to say. But I can play Frantic Escape, I can play Necromastery, and I can play Sentry Mode. And that at least gets a bunch of extra powers into play. And plays a Frantic Escape. Alright, Rolling Boulder, one of the very 3 bottom cards of the deck. Also, the other one was the Soul that would have drawn me into it. Ouch. I'm going to play a Grave Warden here. We'll play Sweeping Gaze, of course, and then we'll play 2 Frantic Escapes, at least ticking that back up. And then here, I'm going to play a Sweeping Gaze, and I think I just have to play the Rolling Boulder. I'll just leave these Souls in the deck. Take some damage this turn, but that's okay. We'll play Sweeping Gaze. And I'll play a Defy. And I could let another Defy disintegrate in order to play Delay. But I think let's just play the other Defy, and then I'll play 1 Frantic Escape to keep that relatively high at least. Now that I have Rolling Boulder set up, that's kind of my plan for winning the fight. This turn, we're going to go Bone Shards. And then... Oh, wait. I needed to play Unleash and Sweeping Gaze first. Very bad ordering there. I knew I was going to do that at some point in this fight. Unfortunate there. I should have had 10 more damage and 2 more health in this spot. Always play your Asti cards before your Bone Shards, for obvious reasons. And then we'll play Sweeping Gaze, and I'll play Bodyguard. Negative Pulse is worth some Doom, and we'll play a Grave Warden. I could have played So over Negative Pulse. It's slightly more damage, basically. But what I really wanted to do was just set up the maximum amount of block and, of course, put Souls in the deck. And I don't want to redraw So. It's just a bad card. Let's play the Fetch here, and then I could trigger a reshuffle before playing Drain Power if I want to upgrade specific cards. I think that's okay. So I'm going to play the Soul here. I'll play Sweeping Gaze. And then I can play Blight Strike, Unleash, Drain Power. That means not playing a Frantic Escape this turn, so I definitely need to play a Frantic Escape. And I think I'll just play Blight Strike and Drain Power. Upgrading just the Blight Strike. But I need to play a Frantic Escape every turn from now on. Alright, Sweeping Gaze first this time. Fetch first this time. Then we're going to play the Bone Shards. And then I'm taking a bunch of damage. The enemy is down to 30. So I just need to Frantic Escape once, and we'll make it through the Insatiable fight here if I can block enough damage, because the Rolling Boulder will do it, or if I can draw into any damaging card. Scary fight. I messed up there on the Bone Shards turn. I probably would have about 10 more health, but we made it through. And honestly, given how rough this deck is, I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at. Let's see. What do I want out of this upgrade pile? I have Misery, can be pretty good. We have Defy, so it can put the weakness on a bunch of enemies. I have, of course, a little bit of Doom in the deck, just from Negative Pulse and Blight Strike. Not a ton, so it's not amazing. I could play Time's Up. That's not great. We don't apply enough Doom for Time's Up to be good. I think Shared Fate is where we want to be here. The loss of strength is kind of painful. It will decrease a bunch of our damaging options, because we do actually have a lot of attacks that are actually us attacking. But on the other hand, it is a very, very powerful debuff. Enemy losing 3 strength is quite good, and Osti's attacks don't care about Shared Fate. So I think I'm going to take that. But I can see an argument for Misery as well. And on to Act 3. Entering Act 3, let's see what we have at the Ancient. So Crossbow is kind of interesting. We need more attacks, so this is something that could just give me a bunch of extra attacks. This, I think, is more of a like an Ironclad card than a Necrobinder card typically, but this Necrobinder deck is a little less combo focused and a little less it's more linear and less reliant on looping through specific cards a bunch. So it's a little bit more interesting to play Crossbow. Throwing Axe is just very good. Any of our powers we can double up on, and that's pretty strong. Like double Rolling Boulder would be ridiculous. Doubling up on things like Defy is always good. Claws is also kind of interesting. Because I could transform a bunch of the weak attacks that we still have in the deck. I could transform, say, Drain Power, Blight Strike, Flash, and what else would I transform? Maybe 1 Defend, and like the Necromastery. I could transform into 6 Mauls, and that would be a lot of extra damage. But I think Throwing Axe is just really powerful. It's basically drawing an extra card and getting 1 or 2 extra energy on the first turn of every combat, and that's just really strong overall. Looking at this pathing, it's a very awkward map, actually, because we don't have... I want 200 gold before I go to a shop so I can remove Clash, if possible, because it's just junking up the deck still. But all of our shops are at the beginning, so that's kind of rough. I also have to take at least 1 hard mode fight, because in Act 2 and 3, they happen after the first 2 enemies, and it looks like actually more than 1. So I'm going to end up doing something like this, and then go like here, take a couple elite fights, and then another hard mode fight before the end. That's looking like a fairly likely path. And in fact, I think is probably the path I'm going to go with, because I do need a shop. This is a terrible path to get to a shop, because you have to take both of them. I could also go to the right, but that's even more hallway fights. So, yep, it's off to the left for us. Alright, here I will, I guess, start with Bodyguard, doubling up, and then we'll play Unleash and Defy. I could have doubled up on Defy as well, but doubling up on Bodyguard meant that the Unleash was going to be really strong. Now, Fetch only works once here, right? So we're going to double play Defy. We only get the card draw. Or no, sorry, first card each combat. I'm just blanking on how the effect works. And then we'll play Fetch, and then I'll play Grave Warden. At least get a soul in the deck. And then here, we have 6 energy this turn, which is great. Let's start with a Soul. And I guess I'll just play all of my... Or a Soul, rather. And I guess I'll just play all my powers and Clash this turn. So pretty solid turn for us there. Here I can play... We'll start with Sweeping Gaze. I could... I'm gonna Shared Fate as well. Even though it's not great against this enemy because it has so much strength, but it's still worth doing. And then I'm gonna play Delay, and I'll play a Negative Pulse. I could play Bone Shards, but Asti dying here isn't actually good for me. Also, note that the Rolling Boulder damage is not affected by my negative strength, so important interaction as well. This turn I can Bone Shards, and I can play Drain Power, and I can play Defy, rather. I can play Drain Power as well. I can play Severance and set up some souls. I could also just go for some block, like play a Bodyguard. And that works with Necromastery as well, so it's 7 damage back to the enemy. So I'm going to play Bodyguard, and I'll play, I guess, just the Defend and the Drain Power. Save some health on Asti. And then here, let's go Fetch, Sweeping Gaze, play Defy, weakening the enemy. Oh, and it's very low health, so we can just kill it. I wasn't really looking at its HP bar there. Do I want a third Defy? I mean, this is such a powerful card, and you can always just remove it from the deck if it's not good. So I think I do want a third Defy. And then we'll go to the shop here. Sadly, I do not have enough golds to remove the Clash. A couple really powerful cards that we could add to the deck, though. Scourge is quite good. Shroud is quite good. We don't have a lot of Doom application, but the Doom application that we do have, of course, works well with Shroud here. I think I will take a Scourge, and since I just added Scourge, do I want to take Wisp? Do I want to take, like, a Bone Brew? Bone Brew could be really good for one of the boss fights as well. I think the potion is actually going to be the most helpful here. I can use Powdered Demise against one of the elites, and we can keep Bone Brew for the boss. Ah, man. The Scrolls of Biting are always such a rough fight, but I do get to play double Delay on the first turn. I could also play double Blight Strike, but let's play double Delay. That's 26 block for 28 incoming damage. So that helps set up for a future turn, and then I'll just play the Grave Warden here. And then this turn, I can play everything. So let's play Defy on that enemy. And then I'll play Sow. And I'll play Drain Power on the lowest health one. And we'll play Defend, Defend. This turn, I still have 6 energy. I definitely want to get Rolling Boulder into play because it does damage to everything. I also want to play Bone Shards. So, let's start with Fetch. And that puts this enemy down to 11. And then I'm going to play Bone Shards. 16 incoming damage. I can play Shared Fate as well. So if I play, say, Rolling Boulder and Sentry Mode and Shared Fate and Defend, we get to keep some block for next turn. And we set up Rolling Boulder to do 10 damage to everything. And then this turn, I've got Sweeping Gaze, killing one of them. And then I can play Scourge, which will set that other one up to die. And we can weaken it and take no more damage for the rest of the fight. Alright, so not a bad Scrolls of Biting fight. A second Powdered Demise, that would have been a really nice potion to add, of course. Do I want an Afterlife or an upgraded Negative Pulse? I didn't buy the Shroud, so we don't have extra block from Doom, which is really good with Negative Pulse, of course. I think I'm going to go with the Afterlife. It's okay to add an Afterlife to the deck for these fights, I think, just to set up larger Asti turns. And then we're going to skip, and then we'll go to an event. Are there any cards that I want to not exhaust? Shared Fate not exhausting is kind of interesting. We can reduce my strength to like nothing and loop through Shared Fate. I could have an Afterlife that doesn't exhaust, but I think just Forgotten Soul is going to be better here. And then we'll go to another hallway fight. The new Axebot, I think that this fight is generally fairly easy. I'm going to double Defy it to keep it weakened for next turn. And then we'll play Blight Strike, and we'll play Negative Pulse. And then here, I'm going to go... I could play the Bone Shards, or I could set up Necromastery. I definitely want to play Defy. I'm always doing that. So that blocks all the incoming damage. I think this turn, just getting Necromastery set up is probably better. But Bodyguard Grave Warden has to be better, because it puts a soul in the deck. We keep some block for next turn, we keep 6 block, and we keep a bunch of Asti health. And then this way I can play, like, I can set up my Rolling Boulder, I can play Delay, and I can play Scourge. And, yeah, I'll Shared Fate this enemy just to keep some additional block here. Why not? Here, let's start with Fetch, gaining some block, and then we'll play Defy, Sentry Mode, Flash, and Unleash. And I'll play the Soul just so the enemy, or the So just so the enemy dies here. I keep mixing up Soul and So. Here I'm going to start with Sweeping Gaze. I'll play an Afterlife. And I'm going to play a big Unleash, but let's play a Soul first. And then I can play Defy. And I can play to keep it in the deck. And I can play a big Unleash. Keep some block from turn to turn. And we have a bunch of health on Asti still. So we're really in good shape in this fight. I'll play Defy, Necromastery, and Sweeping Gaze here. Kill that enemy, the other one comes in, and then I can play Fetch. I can play Delay, Sweeping Gaze, and at this point I can probably just let the Defies go, because we're on to the third bot, so let's just play the Blight Strike and start doing a little bit more damage. And my Rolling Boulder's ticked up so much at this point that we can end this fight fairly quickly, I think. Scourge, drawing some cards, and then we'll play some blocking effects. And Drain Power is enough block that the fight is over. So, clean Axebot fight, very happy with that. A weakness potion. We keep getting offered potions. Oh, wow. Countdown or Sleight of Flesh. Both of these are really strong cards. Now, Sleight of Flesh works with... I have triple Defy. So that's weakness. I have the one Shared Fate, which is obviously only once, but that's still another Sleight of Flesh tick. That is one of the easiest ways to kill the enemy quickly. We have Blight Strike as well. Countdown is also so good for these late game boss fights, but I think Sleight of Flesh is more important here. So I'm going to take it. And then... any chance I want to change the direction that I'm going in? I don't think so. I think I would rather go to the left here, and then we'll take this elite fight, and then get a campsite, 2 more fights, and then a campsite. So, over to here. This is not a duplicate deck, I don't think. It's closer than... Actually, is this a duplicate deck? It's closer than you might think. The Necrobinder almost never wants to duplicate its deck because you end up with combos. But duplicating the Rolling Boulder is strong. Duplicating Sentry Mode is strong. I think the fights are long enough that we are just going to lose a lot of HP off of bad luck. So I'm going to go for the Mirror here, and we lost an upgrade on Defy and Afterlife, and got upgrades on Grave Warden, looks like Fetch, Unleash and Negative Pulse. Not terrible upgrades, honestly. Afterlife, I would, of course, prefer to have upgraded. The Defy, I really don't mind downgrading. I mean, it's better upgraded, but it's not like a critical upgrade. The only ones I really would need to immediately re-upgrade would be Rolling Boulder and Sentry Mode. Those are the most important ones to have upgraded. So, not bad at all. And then, let's go here. Letter Opener, that's some extra damage. We're playing 3 skills basically every turn. And then, do I actually want to upgrade one of my cards here? I can go upgrade Sleight of Flesh. Upgraded Sleight of Flesh is going to be a lot of extra damage, so I'll take an upgrade over an event. And then we'll go to the Elite fight. This is the Elite I should probably use Powdered Demise against. It's not... Powdered Demise isn't very good against the test subject. It's okay against the Queen, but I think that we will take less damage overall if I just use it here. And then I will go... I'm always playing Defy. Let's start with Fetch. See what we draw into, because... Oh, wait. Instantly forgot the Throwing Axe. Okay, doubling Defy there, of course, was way, way better than what I just did. I guess I don't mind redrawing, so I'll just play it for 9 damage. But now I'm going to take extra damage because I messed up with my Throwing Axe. I really need to remember that I have this, or that's going to come back to bite me over and over again. Saving some energy from turn to turn here. I also did draw into Bone Shards. That's pretty nice. Let's start with Scourge and see what we draw. And I'll play a Soul as well. Do I want to get Sleight of Flesh set up? I want to play Defy for sure. I want to play Defend and Afterlife if possible. And I want to play Bone Shards and Sentry Mode. I guess Afterlife and Bone Shards I don't need to play in the same turn. So I'm always playing the Defend. And that doesn't do a debuff, so I don't need to play Sleight of Flesh first if I'm doing that. And you can often play cards in like this sort of order in order to make the mental load easier. I think Sleight of Flesh is going to be better to have in play than Sentry Mode. So I'm going to play that, and I'll play Defy. And I'll play Bone Shards. And that blocks all the damage. It does mean I don't get Sentry Mode into play. But we have Sleight of Flesh in play, which is also pretty important. And then here I can play Defy, keeping the enemy weakened, and I can play Delay. It means I'm not getting the Rolling Boulder into play, but now that I have Sleight of Flesh in play, that's a lot less important. This turn, we can play Delay again. Let's start with Severance, because I'm always playing that, I think. And I'd love to draw into a Defy here. I didn't, but I can play Delay, and I can play either Bodyguard or Defend. Let's just play the Bodyguard. Not getting Necromastery into play here, unfortunately, but that's alright. Here I will play Fetch. I think we're not getting Rolling Boulder played in this fight. So let me just go Scourge. That's 13 more damage. And then Negative Pulse is some more damage. And I'm going to take a really big hit in this on this turn, because I didn't draw into one of my Defies. But we can still play Afterlife, which does some damage there. I can play Drain Power, but it's only for 6, so I guess it's just a bunch of defends. And then we take 9 damage here, and then I just need to block enough that we don't die this turn, which we can do like so. So, not a bad Soul Nexus fight, actually. That's a tough enemy. Alright, we got our Speed Potion. I would happily trade Speed Potion for any of the potions I had to discard, but the Powdered Demise was so good in that fight. Strike Dummy, completely useless Relic, sadly. Another Negative Pulse is a lot of extra Doom. An upgraded Severance is, of course, more souls, but it's very expensive, and we've found no energy generation. Debilitate is very good with all my defies. I think I'm going to take the debilitate here, actually. And then here I can... do I think I can get away with upgrading, or do I need to rest? And if I do upgrade, what would I upgrade? Because there's actually not that many cards I care about upgrading left in the deck. In fact, basically none. So let's actually just do a rest here. And if I don't take too much damage in these next two fights, we can always upgrade at this next campsite. The downside of that is I waste one HP, but the upside is fairly high. Alright, let's get Sleight of Flesh into play. Doubled. Maybe I was supposed to double Afterlife or Defend. But I think I'll just play my... Yeah, I was probably just supposed to play Speed Potion and then double Defend, but double Sleight of Flesh will make this fight a lot faster. And then I'll just play everything here. And then this turn, I can play Fetch on this enemy. I can play Negative Pulse, which is a lot of bonus damage. I can play Shared Fate. I'm going to Shared Fate this enemy because that's 26 damage to it and stop 6 damage this turn immediately. And then I'm going to play a Defy here. And I'm going to play Negative Pulse. And then I could Blight Strike to just kill this thing. Or even... No, Drain Power doesn't kill it, but Blight Strike does. Let's just do that. Just to avoid taking more damage this turn. Yeah, double Sleight of Flesh actually has worked out well here. And then this turn, I can go Debilitate on something. I can play Defy. We've got 26 damage per debuff, and this is 3 debuffs. So, let's go Debilitate and Defy on this enemy. Defy on this enemy. And then I'll play Sentry Mode and Defend. And then here, I guess I don't have any debuffs in hand, but any damage that we can play is going to be lethal, so good enough. Alright, the Knights are a tough fight, so really nice to get through that. Candelabra is really good as well. We traded away the Lantern, but we have Candelabra and Chandelier, which is also pretty solid. Do I want a Cleanse? Cleanse or a Fear? Fear, of course, makes enemies vulnerable, which is quite powerful. Cleanse, I can remove many of the bad cards that we get in these decks from like the test subject applying wounds. But the Queen mostly doesn't put curses in the deck, and our cards are not that bad overall. I could also take Flatten. We are attacking with Asti every turn, and this is worth 2 block as well. It also gives me strength off of Shuriken, not that that matters that much. I think this is a really interesting spot. The Queen is going to be tough because we're going to lose a lot of our... We don't have enough card draw to make the Queen fight easy. And basically you just need card draw or retain in order to have stuff to do every turn in the Queen fight. I think in this spot I'm going to take the Fear. It applies a debuff, so it works with Sleight of Flesh. And we need more damage to win the Queen fight quickly. And then let's go ahead this turn and start with... I could play Scourge. I think I'll just double Defy. I should almost always just play Defy twice on the first turn. Like, I could play Sentry Mode twice, but the Owl Magistrate's a fairly tough fight. I could play Shared Fate twice as well, but keeping the enemy weakened for multiple turns I think is really strong. So I'm going to do this. I'll play Bodyguard. I'm not going to worry about Scourge. Yeah, weakened and with its strength reduced, it does nothing this turn. That's really funny. Let's start with Fear. And then Fetch. while it's vulnerable. And then I can play Rolling Boulder, Afterlife, and Sweeping Gaze. We're not playing the Bone Shards this turn. Man, I wish I had Thorns. The Thorns Relic would be so good here. This turn, let's start with Severance, and then I'm going to play the Soul. I didn't draw into anything particular that I want to play, but I will play Debilitate, Grave Warden, Negative Pulse, Blight Strike, and Sweeping Gaze. And we've gained our strength back from the Shuriken, which is kind of nice as well. This turn, I will start with the Soul. And then I want to get Sleight of Flesh set up before I play Defy. If I do that, though, Asti takes damage, but I don't, so that doesn't matter that much. Let's play Sleight of Flesh, we'll play Defy, and then we'll play Sweeping Gaze. Actually, Asti doesn't even take damage, because the enemy's got negative strength, so it's the amount of damage that it's doing is so reduced. And this, of course, is why, what's the card? Shared Fate is so ridiculous. And here, I'll play a Soul. And then I'll play Defy. And I'll play Sweeping Gaze. And we'll play a big Unleash. And that wins the fight. Alright, and no damage taken there. That's pretty nice. Fire Potion is probably still worse than the Speed Potion for just the boss fights remaining. Do I want a Wisp? Wisp can be pretty useful. It's bad in the Queen fight. It can be okay in the Test Subject fight to get Rolling Boulder set up on the correct turns. But I think in this spot, I'm just going to skip everything here. I don't really want to draw any of those cards. And then I'm going to go into the campsite. I'm going to do a rest here. Obviously, we're wasting some of the HP because we're resting up to our maximum health. But I still think it's worth doing a rest. And then I'm going to head into the boss fights. But first, I'm just going to step away and take a quick break. Be right back. Well, the thing will go on immediately, but you know what I mean.
All right, and we are back and on to the boss fight, which clearly I needed the break because I forgot that I was, recording and not playing live. All right, let's look at this boss fight. So, on the first turn here, I could play double Defy, or I could play double Rolling Boulder. Double Rolling Boulder, I think, is going to be too strong. It's going to set us up for a really good and really clean fight against the Queen. And we're basically just going to rely on these to kill the enemy quickly. Do I want to use my Speed Potion? I could play Speed Potion for Defy and Defend. I think the Speed Potion will be able to block 10 damage at some point, and right now it's only blocking, 3? So I think we'll pass on that. I'm also letting the Fear etherealize. It was just a little too awkward to play it this turn. So it's not something that I'm hyper interested in building around this turn. Get Slate of Flesh into play, and then I'm gonna play, or in this fight rather, and then I'm gonna play Grave Warden. I could debilitate the Torchhead to start stacking Slate of Flesh damage on it. I could play just Negative Pulse plus Defend, and that's enough block. Let's just do that. And that also starts stacking Doom and damaging the enemies. And we've got the Letter Opener going as well. Even get to keep 3 block for next turn. Now, the downside is this turn. Yeah, and I knew this was going to start happening at some point. We're going to lose out on one of our Defies. And we have Clash here, which I can't get out of the deck, which is going to really clog up my bound cards on various turns. I could play Fetch and then draw into something else, but then I'm losing 2 Defies. So let's keep the upgraded Defy. We'll play it here. And then I'll set up Sentry Mode. And then I'm taking a bunch of damage this turn. Is it worth using the Bone Brew? I think I'm going to keep my Bone Brew for a future turn. For the next fight, if possible. And
this turn, we have 24 incoming damage. I'm always playing Sweeping Gaze before I play Bone Shards. I could play Shared Fate. I could play Scourge. Scourge, of course, draws me into more cards that I can play. I only have 3 energy this turn is the downside. I could draw into Delay and get more energy next turn, but I really want to play the Bone Shards. I also would love to set up Necromastery. So I think what we're actually doing this turn is I'm just playing Necromastery just for the setup there. Oh, I did that in the wrong order. I was talking through my my card plays and ended up ordering it wrong. Obviously should have played Bone Shards before Necromastery, and then I'd have had 5 blocks still. And then I'm going to play Shared Fate. And I will curse the Queen, even though the Torchhead is still alive. Reducing the strength on the Queen is really, really powerful. And then here I can go Sweeping Gaze. Blight Strike is enough damage to kill the Torchhead, right? Blight Strike plus Drain Power. So let's go Blight Strike here. And then Drain Power I can play as well, but I'll play the Soul, because we could get the 1 damage from Forgotten Soul to hit it. And then, actually, in this spot, I'm just going to play Delay. That keeps 9 block, or it keeps 10 block for next turn, and gives me 2 more energy next turn as well. And then the Queen having reduced strength, because she multi-attacks, that's going to reduce the incoming damage by quite a lot. This turn, let's start with Sweeping Gaze, and I'm going to play Delay over Bodyguard and Afterlife. I'll play Debilitate, I'll play Unleash, and I guess I'll play the Sow as well. So I definitely could have kept more health in this fight if I had played it a little better. We'll play Sweeping Gaze, we'll play Scourge, and then I'll play Defy, and I can play Severance, or I can just play some block. Severance gets the enemy down low enough that she dies, but so does Drain Power, and then this way I don't have to do any math. Alright, so that was a fairly clean fight against the Queen. We actually would have done even better had I'd have 5 more health if I had played the Necromastery in the right order. Maybe even a little bit more, but going into the last fight with both my potions still intact and 55 health, I'm pretty happy with that. So in this fight, dang, we didn't draw a Rolling Boulder in the opening hand. That's kind of sad. So in this fight, I have a couple options for what to double play. I really need to remember I've got Throwing Axe here, of course. I could double play Necromastery. That gives me, lets me do Science and see if it does do double damage. I could double cast Scourge just for a bunch of Doom and to draw 4 cards. I could double cast Defy to keep the enemy weakened for longer. If I play Necromastery, I'm losing out on the Defies. But we also do need to kill this enemy a little faster. So I think I'm going to double play Necromastery, and I'll play 1 Defy. And then it does work the way that I had hoped it would, where the enemy's going to take a bunch of damage. Also, I'm not going to use my Bone Brew during this stage of the fight, because the second stage, the enemy does damage. When you take health damage from the second stage, you get wounds added to the deck, so I want to save the Bone Brew so it can block damage in the second stage. My health is less valuable than Osti's health for that reason. Alright, so I'm also not going to play Shared Fate. This enemy is going to gain infinite strength, and we just need to... we need Shared Fate for the later stages of the fight where the enemy multi-attacks. So here, I could play Grave Warden. Maybe I should have played that before the fetch. I'm going to play Grave Warden here, get some block going. And I will play a Bone Shards. Am I going to play Unleash before I play Bone Shards? I think I probably will. So let's play the Unleash. Play Bone Shards. Got a bunch of block here. play Debilitate, and play Drain Power. And I only had Defy as an unupgraded card there. That's kind of funny. And then we'll keep So in hand. And I've got 42 damage incoming this turn. I still have not drawn Sleight of Flesh or Rolling Boulder, which is unfortunate. Ideally, I would like to get it so that the enemy dies on its turn, if I can play some form of Doom. Unfortunately, that would mean taking 2 more attacks, which I don't know that I can afford to do. Let's play Sentry Mode here. And I'm going to use my Speed Potion, because I think we're going to maintain our health better by playing the Speed Potion. And then I'll play Delay and Defy. And then I can play the Bodyguard here as well. And I'm going to play So. And then I've got extra energy this turn, which is not... once again, I can't play Sleight of Flesh or Rolling Boulder. I can play Severance to try to draw into one of those. So let's do that. We'll play Severance. I'm going to play a Soul here. Alright, I finally drew Sleight of Flesh. Now, I can play Negative Pulse, and then the enemy will die to Doom if I play Sleight of Flesh second. So, let's do that. Because I want it to die to Doom so that next turn I can set up Rolling Boulder safely. Because if it dies on its own turn, then it'll spend a turn regenerating. Whereas if I kill it, it'll come back immediately and start acting. So basically, by not killing it this turn and taking some extra damage, I set it up so that we get an extra turn of this enemy regenerating, in which I can play Rolling Boulder. And getting that going is really important. And now I can just use the Bone Brew. That's fine. I do lose out on my Fear, but that's okay. We got Rolling Boulder set up during the first cycle through the deck, which is pretty important, I think. This turn, let's go Fetch. And I'm going to play a Soul, because I'm looking for Defy, I think. Or do I just want to play... because Defy or Shared Fate would be really good finds. On the other hand, I could just play Debilitate and Delay this turn. I think playing the Soul is still good. I'll play Delay. I'll play Sweeping Gaze, gaining 2 more block. And then I could play Negative Pulse, which is some good damage and some more block. I could play Debilitate. I think Debilitate's going to be better. It means I take some damage on Asti this turn. But that's okay, because we have the double Necromastery. And this way, when I draw into Defy, which I was very likely to, then the Defy is working at double value, which is really huge. We can play Sweeping Gaze. We can play Grave Warden. And it's funny how much harder this fight is than the Queen fight. Do I want to play So? I guess I do. I gain a strength by playing So as well. And I do some damage to the enemy here. Alright, so this turn I can play Sweeping Gaze. And I can play a Defy, because I'm always doing that. And I play a Soul. And then I have 25 incoming damage, so it would die to the Asti damage if I play Severance, because I can get it down to 4 health, and then it dies to Asti, and then I believe I get an extra turn. Or I can just play Bodyguard Afterlife and wait until next turn to try to kill it. If I do that, I'm drawing like Scourge, because now that that this stage is almost dead, I was planning to use Shared Fate on this stage. Now that this stage is almost dead, I'm going to use Shared Fate on the next stage, probably. Alright, so if I play Severance, the enemy takes 16 damage, then it dies attacking me, because Asti kills it. I have a bunch of extra souls in the deck, which is also nice. Then I get 1 extra turn of being able to set up block and stuff like that. So I think this is better. because having it die on its own turn is so much stronger. Now the downside is because I can't target it this turn, I don't want to draw my Defies, because then I'll lose them. So I guess all I'm really doing this turn is just playing Defend and Sweeping Gaze, and I can't play like Blight Strike and Scourge. But now I can draw into a couple of souls, and we've got 7 block. We've got a little more health on Asti as well. So I do think that worked out correctly. Rolling Boulder is also up to 35, which isn't bad. And I drew Shared Fate, which is amazing. Drawing that on the first stage of this fight is awesome. It does mean I gave up some... Because it's intangible this turn, I'm giving up some Sleight of Flesh damage, but that's okay. We'll play Sweeping Gaze. I'll play a Soul here. And I'll play another one. I'm looking for Defy, if possible. I missed on Defy, but I can play Delay and Defend. I didn't get to play the Scourge. That I think is okay. This enemy will also start shuffling Burns into my deck, so I need to be aware of that. Let's go Grave Warden first, and then play a Fetch. And then I'll play a Soul. I can play Sweeping Gaze for free here, basically, as well. Play another Soul. Alright, we drew a Defy and a Debilitate. That's great. So we'll play Defy, Debilitate. I could just play Unleash and Blight Strike for some more damage. It's on a non-ethereal turn. I could also draw to try to hit a Defy for next turn. I think just doing the damage this turn is fine. We don't need to use the Soul. And we're going to keep 10 block for next turn regardless. Oh, right. And it's not attacking this turn anyways. Let's play Sweeping Gaze. We'll play Defy because I do want to keep that in the deck. And I'm going to play a Severance here. Because more souls shuffled in is going to be good. Especially because we have the burns that we're going to have to deal with. 45 damage there. It's still debilitated this turn as well. So we'll play Sweeping Gaze. We'll play a Soul. I still have Afterlife in the deck, which is kind of funny. I'll play a Fetch as well. And we drew into another Soul, which is great. I do want to recycle through the Debilitate. So I'm going to play that. And I played Negative Pulse for more damage and to add some Doom. And then I can play Bodyguard, I can play Sow, I can play Defend. I guess Defend is the most efficient of these, and we get to retain the Sow anyways. And then this turn, do I have Lethal? I can play Sweeping Gaze, that's 2 damage. I can play Scourge. And that puts it to 41 Doom, and then I can play Defy. And that both weakens it, preventing incoming damage, and puts enough Doom on the field that we don't die here. And then we can play a Defend, and think that's a win. Alright, well that was a really fun deck. Very scrappy, very weird. Kind of a tough last fight, too, because Rolling Boulder and Sleight of Flesh were both on the bottom. So, fun that we won that. Honestly, at the end of in the middle of Act 1, I was like, oh no, I said, I'm going to show you guys how to win with Necrobinder, and then I'm going to lose, because the deck was not looking great. But we managed to put together a pretty solid deck, and most of the pieces, I think, were very good. The Clash obviously was bad, but you're going to end up with some bad cards in the deck no matter what you do. Necromastery, it was not terrible in that last fight when we double cast it, but it certainly wasn't great. I probably should have taken one of the other gold cards over it. I don't remember exactly what it was up against. Rolling Boulder was incredible. This was a really big component of our victory, as was Sentry Mode. These were 2 excellent cards. Shared Fate was very good in several of the last encounters, and of course, adding 3 Defies was great. Sleight of Flesh over Countdown worked out phenomenally. Definitely the right decision there, I think. And adding the Debilitate at the end, I really liked, actually. I have, I think, been sleeping on this card a little bit, so adding Debilitate ended up being really powerful. So really fun run. we managed to get through there, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. As always, of course, if you have enjoyed the video, then feel free to leave a comment and hit like. Helps me out with the algorithm, so I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And of course, you can subscribe to my channel for more Slay the Spire 2 and other strategy game analysis. Cheers, folks. I'll catch you next time.